We're the biggest small town on the planet, and we're always trying to expand it. We like to strut what we got in a land of holy Mackinac.
Welcome to Flashbacks, the show about local history and nostalgia. We'll take you on tours of neat places and show you things you've never seen. You'll meet some amazing people, and each program will feature an original song about Hamilton. Greetings and welcome to Flashbacks. My name is Mark McNeil from the Hamilton Spectator. This is my co-host Margaret Houghton. Stan Rogers was one of Canada's greatest songwriters. He had a rich baritone voice, and he was especially known for his songs about the East Coast. But tragically, he died in a plane fire in 1983. He was only 33 at the time, and his career was just starting to take off. Since that time, many of his songs have become Canadian classics. Songs like Baird's Privateers, The Mary Ellen Carter, and Fogarty's Cove, just to name a few. He's received numerous posthumous honors, and this year the city of Hamilton named him Famous Hamiltonian of the Year.
To celebrate this honor, Mark was asked to organize and host a concert to showcase Stan's music. This concert took place at the Spectator Auditorium in August and was so successful that a second concert was scheduled for the following night and was a sellout. We brought along our producer James Bell to capture the evening so that we can share with you tonight some of the musical performances and interviews.
For just one time I would take the Northwest Passage to find the hand of Franklin reaching for the Beaufort Sea, tracing one warm line through a land so wide and savage, and make a Northwest Passage to the sea.
We're in the studio with Ariel Rogers. Ariel was married to Stan and has done an amazing job of carrying on his legacy after he died. And she also took part in the Stan show. She sang a couple songs. What was he like?
What was he like?
Yeah.
Teddy bear in some respects, and big gruff guy in other respects. He was pretty tender-hearted. And at the same time, he didn't suffer fools gladly. He would say, where he stood on a lot of issues. He always said he wasn't a political person. He lied. That was not true. You could tell from his writing that he had pretty strong political ideas, but social-political. Do you know what I'm saying? And a rabid Canadian who loved to read. He had 2 or 3 books going all at the same time. So, very complex.
Tell me about his creativity and how he wrote songs.
Oh, God, Mark, I don't know how he wrote those songs. Some of them, he'd sit down at the dining room table and he'd get up 40 minutes, 60 minutes later, and he'd have the framework for something like The Mary Ellen Carter, for instance. He seemed to take his inspiration from talking to people, from reading, and sometimes it just came unbidden. The one that I sort of can recall specifically was watching him watch Nathan in the Swing-O-Matic. And the kid's going back and forth, and it goes, choo, ka-choo, 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 and the kid googles and goggles and all the rest of that. And he sat down and wrote this song called Working Joe, and it was basically a song that he wrote for his dad because he suddenly understood about, parenting and all the sort of the ramifications of that.
Had Stan lived longer, how do you think his career would have evolved?
He was already headed to major concerts. His goal at that point in time was 60 concerts a year. He wanted more time at home. And I can't say I blame him because all of his relationships at home suffered because he was on the road so much that last year and a half. I definitely think he would have gone on to score in movies, that sort of thing, because he was already asked to score 2 separate films, Canadian films, when he died, and one of them was sort of put over to Connie Calder. And but he had a lot of breadth in terms of the kind of writing that he did. He couldn't be just sort of slotted into the folk music genre. He allowed himself a lot of leeway, and he liked to play with it.
Bits and pieces you offer of your life, I didn't think they meant a lot or said much for you, and all the chances to follow didn't make a lot of sense when stacked against the choices you made. For yours was the open road, the heavy song and the heavier load that I couldn't share, though the offer's still there. Every time you turn around, now it's not like you made out to hang around, although you know I made some sounds to show that I cared. And when it looked like you heard the call, I didn't say a lot, although I could have said.
You know, I honestly can say I don't know. I know that in his heart he would look at that and say, economically speaking, maybe that's something that will help that part of my world. But at the same time, he would also look at it and go, but the environmental impact, it's more than just going in with some trucks and digging out rock. There's a lot more to it than that. But the interesting part of that whole thing is that there's no such place as Fogarty's Cove. Right. At least there wasn't. In Stan's Music, there are 71 places in Canada named for specific reason or another, or not, just because it fit in the verse. But and he said in his notes for the album, if you trace along the shoreline of Chedabucto Bay, you will see all of these places, Queensport, Halfway, Half Island Cove. But there's no Fogarty's Cove. There was a place called Indian Cove and Fogarty Head. But somebody decided at some point in time, that would be really nice. Let's rename that to Fogarty's Cove. But on the real government maps, not there. Not yet.
But the part of the world that he romanticized now is threatened to be turned into a quarry.
A small part of the world, yes. And I'm of the same mind that I can understand how it would be good one way or the other. I know that his brother disagrees with the idea, and I respect his call on that. He actually spends part of his year down there, so he's a little more connected. As for what Stan would say, I have no idea.
All the candles in the morning that she lit to make me brighter, just the colored shadows forming, and the room was getting brighter. Looked like dusty sunlight shining, not a thing to lose between. Single strand that slipped the binding, had the softest hair I'd ever seen. As I watch her head, the words I said fall along a simple rhyme, like I never heard a word like I'm leaving just in time.
What do you think he would think of the increased fame there is for his music at this point in time, 33 years after he died?
That's a good question. I think he'd be thrilled. I really do. I think he would look at it and go, okay, that's a good thing. He always said that he didn't want to be a star, but he wouldn't mind being a major comet. And he kind of went out like that, didn't he? When you think about it. He understood how fickle the industry can be. And he used to say, you know, that, what is it, the prophet has no recognition in his own country.
Right.
Yeah, I used to get pretty pissed off. Oops. You used to get, you can edit that. You used to get pretty ticked off at this sort of, oh, well, who cares attitude in Hamilton. But Hamilton wasn't really a folk music town. Hamilton was a rock, maybe a little bit of jazz, a rock, blues, country type of town because of, you know, Stelco and the fact that it's an industrial city.
Yeah.
33 years later, that's changed.
Yes, definitely. And do you think, though, his he kind of accomplished what he set out to do, to create songs that were more enduring than lasting on the charts for a couple of weeks?
Exactly.
You know, people are singing them 33 years later, and probably be singing them, you know, 100 years from
yes.
now. And that's really what he set out to do.
Yeah, he did. It's
An amazing accomplishment.
an amazing accomplishment. And since his death, I can honestly say I've had a lot of support from my kids, support from a lot of friends to maintain that legacy, to make sure that the rest of the stuff that wasn't released but is still decently recorded was rescued. You know, you have to remember that 33 years ago, we didn't even have a thing called a CD. Cassettes were just sort of, you know, and now we're going back to vinyl.
That's true.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, everything was old is new again.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for coming in, Ariel, and singing at the show as well.
That was nerve-wracking, believe me. Oops, the nerve-wracking on the Monday night. By Tuesday, and given the fact that it was going to be for one of my favorite things, and that's the Camp Fund,
Right.
that was so much easier to get up there and just let her rip.
Well, you did a fabulous job both nights, and thank you so much. Thank you.
And I dared, and yours was the open road. The heavy heart, the heavy load that I couldn't share, though the offer was there. Every time you turned around, and if I had followed a little ways because we're friends, you would have made me welcome out there. But we know that it's just as well. Some can go and some are meant to stay behind, and it's always that way. For yours was the open road, the bitter song, the heavy load that I couldn't share, though the offer was there. Every time you turned around, all yours was the open road, the bitter song, the heavy load that I'll never share, though the offer's still there. Every time you turn around, every time you turn around, every time I turn around,
boys.
Stan was feisty. he was a very strong individual, strong-willed, knew what he wanted, knew what he liked and didn't like in things and people, and was fairly quick to form opinions, and that made him sometimes difficult to get along with, but I loved him dearly, and we were best friends.
Well, it's not the hours of watch on watch, and it's not the work that I mind so much, or the long cold miles to my lover's touch, though for sure she's far away. No stranger I to the touch of steel, or the honest fear any man can feel, but I long for dust under my heel and a pocket full of pay, so I'll take it from day to day.
This 12-string guitar was actually Stan Rogers' 12-string guitar, and after he died, his widow Ariel told me that he had said that if anything happened to him, he wanted me to have it. So I was quite moved when she gave me the guitar, and I played it for a long time, and then one time I opened the case and the neck was broken. It had survived that terrible flight that Stan died on. It's just such an honor to have this guitar and to play it, knowing that so many great songs were written with this instrument. Things like the Mary Ellen Carter were actually written on this guitar, so it's quite moving.
A crazy lady on a daylight train is dancing for free, but everybody here just watches trees go by.
Stan was a big man. He was a big personality. I remember driving from Toronto with him one time, and he drove real fast, and that was kind of how he lived. He lived fast, and he lived big, and he liked to just embrace the world, and that's what the kind of man that he was.
I'm still so lonesome, hungry, so alone and so blue.
Barrett's Privateers was a song that Stan wrote up at the Sudbury Folk Festival, and we're two of the humans on the planet to actually hear it first, because he wanted to write a song for the Friends of Fiddler's Green that he could lead a song. And so, of course, they knew all these old traditional songs. And so he wrote that up at the festival. My recollection, you know, and that's 40 years ago we're talking, so it's a long time ago. And he came in, we were having a nap, and he came running in, and he says, "You gotta hear this, you gotta hear this." And he sang Barrett's Privateers. And that, you know, that's how it happened.
God damn them all. I was told we'd cruise the seas for American gold. We'd fire no guns, shed no tears. But I'm a broken man on a Halifax pier, the last of Barrett's privateers. The Antelope sloop was a sickening sight. How I wish I was in Sherbrooke now. She'd a list to the port and her sails in rags, and the cook in the scuppers with the staggers and jags. God damn them all. I was told we'd cruise the seas for American gold. We'd fire no guns, shed no tears. But I'm a broken man on a Halifax pier, the last of Barrett's privateers.
He was a bit of a joker. He was always playing pranks on us. My favorite one is I would be lying on the floor by the stereo, listening to music in the headphones, and he would creep up to the side and start playing with the volume knobs and turn things off and unplug them, and I'd be trying to figure out what was going on. Yeah.
I used to love these lazy winter afternoons, starting out too late, giving up too soon. trashy book, never paying any mind if things were never done on time.
What I really enjoyed growing up was coming home from school, and you'd walk in the front door and there was always a group of people in the living room playing music, rehearsing, and then there'd be huge dinners afterwards, chickens and potatoes and vegetables. So, you know, the house was always full of people and musicians and lots of people playing music.
Every night with single bodies boozing at the bar, living for the minute, taking every hour in it. But now there's just too much to do in any given day. The car, the phone, the kitty shoes, too many bills to pay. Running from the crack of dawn till Peter reads the news, and crawling into bed too wiped to even kiss my guy goodnight.
He was truly, you know, he truly was. He lived every moment of his 33 years. And, you know, he's just one of those people that, you know, they're like a fireball. They just shoot through the sky and bam, they're a star.
They brought me here to watch her in the boatyard. Just two old wrecks to spend the night alone. It's dark inside this evil place. Clouds on the moon hide her disgrace. This whiskey hides my own. Stan Rogers used to say that he wanted to leave something behind the world can look at 100 years from now. I think you'll be successful with that. If you were to Google his name today, 33 years after he died, you'll find all kinds of people on YouTube singing his songs. Some of them sung well, and some of them, well, not sung so well. You'll also find amazing testimonials about how his music has changed people's lives. The most amazing story, though, was about a fellow named Bob Cusick. He was a sailor whose ship went down off the coast of Boston, and 20-some sailors died. He managed to keep himself alive by singing the Mary Ellen Carter over and over again. Imagine. There's also a festival every year called Stanfest in Nova Scotia, and his music seems to keep growing every year. On behalf of Margaret and myself, I'd like to thank you for tuning in to Flashbacks today. And one other thing, we're going to do the Stan Rogers Show one more time. We're going to do it at Field Coat in August 2017, so watch for it as part of the summer series of concerts. Thanks for tuning in.